Hello, welcome back to Test Those Breasts. I'm Jamie Vaughn. Today, my guest is Zainab So. Zainab is an author, acquisition specialist, and humanitarian that is committed to empowering women in the United States, Africa, and Caribbean. When it comes to breast cancer, she wholeheartedly believes that educating women is the key to lowering risks and deaths associated with the disease. A mother of two daughters who also has daughters, she wrote her breast cancer memoir with them in mind. She has also left her prior nonprofit to start another that provides education and necessities to women with breast cancer. Well, welcome, Zainab. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. It's so nice to see you and hear you. How are you doing?
I am fine, thank you. And thanks again for having me.
I'm excited because you and I met on Instagram, actually. And it turns out that you are one of my pink sisters. And we just had this connection and we've had conversation on the phone and through Instagram. And I'm just really excited that you are here to be one of the voices to help all of our other pink sisters out there. I just wanted to get into the nitty gritty here and find out how you actually found your breast cancer and what type was it? What stage was it? Can you share a little bit about that?
I can. So I was in the middle of getting scheduled for my hysterectomy, and
Okay.
I found a little knot. I told my gynecologist about it, and he said that after we get through this, we'll get you scheduled for a mammogram. We did that and he got me scheduled. And right where I told them it was this tiny little peanut on my right side, the lower side. And right where I told him it was is exactly where it was, this 1.8 centimeter peanut. And once they did the biopsy of it, my doctor told me that I was stage 1A ductal and carcinoma in situ. After my surgery, it changed because in taking out the two lymph nodes, one of them tested positive. So therefore, it changed it to invasive ductal carcinoma. I'm sorry. Yeah. And that's how I found it, doing my
Yeah.
breast self exams.
So self exams, and you felt it.
I felt it.
So, how important is it to you for people to be testing themselves?
I think it's very important because had I waited next year until that following February, it could have progressed to something else.
Was yours aggressive? Mine was aggressive. I had HER2 positive, estrogen and progesterone negative, and it was very aggressive. By the time they found mine, it was like 5 centimeters.
No, I was estrogen positive, but it wasn't aggressive. It was like a tiny mass. I just found it. And the doctor told me, she said that this couldn't have been more than a year, even less than that I could have had this for it to grow this size.
I see. Well, I'm really glad you found it. That's for sure. So, do you have any family history of breast cancer?
Yes, my mother had the same breast cancer, and so did my great grandmother. My mother passed away in 2013. Hers came back as lung cancer. My grandmother, hers came back as kidney.
Okay. I didn't have any family history, which was very bizarre to me. But at the same time, I found out that that just doesn't matter. You have a book coming out that you've been working on. Can you give us some preliminary information about that book?
Yes, my book is called Heir to Breast Cancer. It will launch in October here in Georgia. And it's basically a memoir and a simple guide to understanding breast cancer. It focuses on lowering your risk, self breast exams and mammograms, how important those things are. It gives a little bit of the things that I did to help keep me in a positive state of mind and pretty much just the basics. I talk about a few things in there. I don't want to share too much.
I'm really excited to actually read that. I just find that one of the reasons I started this podcast is I felt like there needs to be as much information out there for women and men, for that matter, who get breast cancer and all of the resources that are available and people who have had it, who have walked the walk and can help coach and mentor people through. So thank you for writing that book. And we get to hear a little excerpt in a little while. So I'm excited about that. Can you share your knowledge about genetics and breast cancer, like familial genes?
Yes. Even with me having two family members having it, I didn't have the gene mutation, but after taking two genetic tests, the counselor described to me that I had familial genes, and that just means having one or more relatives in your family that had breast cancer. Having family members who had breast cancer, it plays a minor role, but it also raises my risk. But I didn't have
Gotcha.
mutations.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier to me about a donation of breast tissue. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, after my lumpectomy, I donated my breast cancer tissue to Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta, and it was donated to help with the trials that they were conducting. I haven't heard anything back yet what they discovered, but I guess they'll watch and monitor the breast tissues and see how they progress. I don't know how that works, but I donated it and I encourage other women to join the trials. I know for me, hearing that story with Henrietta Lacks, not that I want to get paid for mine because I totally donated it, but I can understand how a lot of women were afraid to be a part of it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I thank you for doing that. I didn't even know that was a thing. I had donated some blood for some sort of study that they were doing, but they told me too that I would not be hearing about what came out of that. So it's interesting that you get to hear about that when it comes out. I'd love to come back together to the table and find out more about that. And it's good for other people to know because we need these studies to be done. We also had a conversation before we got on the interview about breast cancer etiquette. It's so funny because in my first episode, I spoke about some etiquette and some of the things that we hear that sometimes can not be helpful. But at the same time, I never knew really what to say to people when they came out with having either breast cancer or a death in the family or whatever traumatic thing is going on in somebody's family. And sometimes we say things that we think are helpful, but then it turns out that it's not necessarily helpful to everyone. So reading our audience and knowing some of the things to say. And it's something that I really think we need to talk about because we want to be as comforting as possible to people that we know who have gotten breast cancer or any kind of cancer for that matter. I just say breast cancer because that's what we had. But etiquette, is there one thing that really bothered you the most?
Oh my gosh. One that bothered me the most is after I had my mastectomy and I was getting reconstructive surgery, a few people said to me, "Oh, you're going to get free boobs." It's nothing free about getting reconstruction. You are paying with your body. I have these scars for life. The pain that I go through, those drains, just the emotional trauma it's not free. I'm paying with my body.
Yes. And it's mentally disturbing as well. I remember when I found out I had to have a mastectomy, I was in such a deep, dark place. I mean, let's face it, we're getting our breasts amputated, right? This is not like a boob job.
No.
It is not a boob job. And I actually had a few people say that too. And I had people totally apologize to me when I called them on it because I'm pretty open about it. But yeah, no, girl, we're getting these amputated. And that is not a choice. And it is not free. And I didn't want new boobs. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I feel like that is so common
Yeah.
between me and so many other people. I hope people hear this and take that into consideration. You have a nonprofit for breast cancer. Can you share a little bit about that?
Right. I wasn't going to announce it until my book launch, but it is a nonprofit for breast cancer. And I will be highlighting the needs of breast cancer patients during and after surgery. I will be providing things that insurance usually don't cover. I've found a lot. that they didn't cover after I had mine. And I was in a position where I could pay for it, but I know it's a lot of women out there who were struggling during this journey, and I would like to just assist in that. I also want to provide hair hats, hair beanies. I want to provide mastectomy bras, those sort of things, lymphedema leaves. And I don't want to just do it here in the US, connected in Africa and so I really would like to touch those.
Okay, that is really awesome. And really getting that out there to the community. And especially, like you said, some people who can't even afford it, they don't have insurance that's paying for it. That is such a hardship. I mean, having breast cancer as it is a hardship. And then having to pay all of this money. And some of us have to have supplemental type policies to even be able to afford it. We need so much more out there like that.
No, I just wanted to add that I also would like to help pay for the genetic testing. That was something that was a very big part for me, just knowing and understanding these things because I took one test, and even though I had two family members that had breast cancer, I told that I didn't carry the gene. I was like, wait a minute. I did another test. So I had two tests, but they both said the same thing. So I said, okay, I can accept this. And that's when she explained to me about the familial genes.
Wow, wow, very fascinating. So many women I've met, actually, several women who've had breast cancer like in their 20s and 30s. So, what are your thoughts on lowering the age for women to be able to get mammograms?
I believe it should be even lower. They just lowered it to 40, but I really think it should be like 30. I've met so many women who were dismissed because of their age. They were too young to get tested. They didn't carry a family history and they were dismissed and they went off it. And when they found out, they were at a later stage. And just last week when I was on vacation, I was in a hot tub and this young girl came in. I think she was like 21. And she told me, she heard me and my niece talking about my recovery. And she asked me, what are you healing from? And I told her, and she said, oh, I have these little lumps all over my breast. And the doctor told me that they are cysts. And I said, go seek a second opinion because I've always sought a second and third opinion. Yeah. And this girl is only 21 years old. It can turn into something else, but when she find out, it will be too late. So I gave her my information. I'm in touch with her now. I gave her resources and everything. I really think it should be 30.
Yeah. It just totally astounds me that it's not a lower age, especially knowing the amount of women that are younger that are getting it. I really feel like that is where advocacy really comes into play, where we as breast cancer survivors and thrivers should be really pushing the insurance companies to be able to even pay for the mammograms. And I know not all women are able to do that. Not all women have insurance. Not all women have insurance that actually pays for it. So I feel like advocacy work does work. And so we all need to be aware of what's going on and be part of that. I completely agree with you on that. What advice do you have for breast cancer patients to help with mental support? You had mentioned meditation, positive affirmations. What kind of advice do you have for that?
For me, my head was just all over the place. And I had to go through all these negative thoughts in my head before I can get to a positive place. I had to meditate. Meditation was so good for me. It was hard for me to sleep. I did the guided sleep meditations. That was a really big game changer for me. Positive affirmations. I repeated all day long, just positive affirmations that resonated with what I was going through. I said them when I was in a shower, while I'm driving, while I'm cooking, washing dishes. They're just constantly in my head. And they hijacked all the negative thoughts that was going through my head that was overwhelming me and driving me crazy. Mona Lisa, that's my fur baby. My daughter gave her to me as a gift. I never was a dog person. I like horses, peacocks. But my daughter gave me Mona Lisa as a support companion dog. And Mona Lisa got me through a lot. There were times when I could not get out of bed. I did not want to get out of bed. And I know I had to get up and feed her, take her out, let her use the bathroom. So she got me up and it got me through this. I would have just laid there until I was finished healing. They strongly encourage you not to lay there. Get up and move around.
Yes, yes. Even if it's going and sitting in the backyard, I went and walked around and went outside, just got some fresh air between chemo sessions. When I was at my worst, I would force myself to get up, go outside, even have some coffee and just soak in the sun. I also did the guided meditations. I think I said some positive affirmations. What are a few positive affirmations that you said to yourself?
Well, I can't even remember them. I put that behind me. I don't use those ones anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of like PTSD.
I have them in my book, like my 10 favorite affirmations when I was going through the breast cancer journey.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that worked for you. I know that everyone is so different from each other, and there's no one size fits all for how we can get through. I can say, though, that the guided meditations are very helpful, and there are so many apps. There's like Aura and Waking Up apps that I used that were very helpful. And I also had a little doll. One of my very best friends gave me a weighted little animal. She was wonderful. And I took her with me to all of my chemo treatments. And all the nurses in cancer care specialists were like, oh my gosh, you have her with you today. And it was just really cute. I think that having some sort of support animal or whatever that can help you. And my 2 German shepherds were wonderful to me. They loved on me and it was just wonderful. So I'm so glad to hear that. Side effects. How do you pronounce that? Anastrozole, a 5-year pill that you're on?
Anastrozole.
Oh, okay. See how great I was at that?
Yeah.
So what are the side effects to that?
Oh, it's so many. The ones that really scared me was heart attack, stroke, blood clots, blindness, osteoporosis, early onset dementia. Those were like
Oh,
the worst of them. I have some milder side effects. The ones that I experienced, I have lots of bone and joint pain, but I just found out a cure for that. I try to commit myself to going outside and sitting in the sun for 30 minutes twice a week. When I went on vacation, the sun, it felt like it just warmed my bones. And I sat in a hot tub twice a day. So that really worked for me. I got hair thinning, bone and joint pain. My eyesight became a little blurry. What else? Um, Forgetfulness. Yeah, I can't remember hardly anything. A conversation from the day before, I got this brain fog. So those were the side effects that I'm getting. Also, sleep disturbances. So I got the outer ones.
did you have lymph nodes removed?
I had two.
Okay. Yeah. So I just interviewed a therapist about lymphedema therapist, and she was, and I literally just bought a hot tub back in October. And she says people that have had lymph nodes removed should not sit in a hot tub or to sit in it up to your belly button because of the heat or whatever. And I'm like, hey, I just bought a hot tub. I really want to sit in my hot tub. And anyway, I was just curious about what you've heard about, if you know about lymphedema.
Yeah, I heard about it, and we're not supposed to get in hot tubs. But I asked my doctor, she said the same thing. Just try to not to submerge your whole body. It worked for me. It felt good. My arms didn't swell up, and I have the sleeves off standby just in case. With the lymphedema, they told me that I'm not supposed to ever get my blood pressure or blood on the arm where I had the breast cancer. So every time I said that to someone, they would ask me, well, how many did you have removed? And I said 2. They said, no, it's usually if you got more taken out, then that's when it's a problem. So
Oh,
I don't think the whole hot tub thing applied to me because they said those things usually apply to people who've had more.
okay. Out of curiosity, Why did you choose to get a mastectomy over a lumpectomy? Because I know that can be a very personal decision. I've had 2 lumpectomies in my past that were benign, and I actually was only required to get 1 breast removed, but I opted for a double mastectomy.
Well, I had a lumpectomy last year that removed my breast cancer. Then a year later is when I did the prophylactic bilateral mastectomy because it was driving me crazy. After having it and I did my breast exams, everything felt like a lump to me and it was driving me crazy. I said, I cannot live. I told my doctor, I said, just remove them. I done research. And I said, why didn't you tell me all these things? I would have got the mastectomy first because she said you can get a lumpectomy or mastectomy. I thought it was a bit extreme because I had a little tiny little peanut in my breast.
Right.
But that's why I did it, just to give me peace of mind because I would have went crazy. I do breast exams. They say do them once a month. I do them every day in the shower. And everything just, like I said, felt like lumps to me and it was driving me crazy.
Do you have, dense breast
Yeah.
tissue?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That was driving me crazy too. I didn't want to sit there and have to be freaked out the whole time. That's why I chose to do both because I did not want to have this happen again. I didn't want to be freaked out every single time I felt something in my right breast. Were there any complications?
Yes, there were complications. I had the nipple sparing mastectomy, but my nipples were not spared. The one on the breast side, it died. I had nipple necrosis. And so I went back 2 weeks later on Valentine's Day and had to have my nipples removed. So I have this scar under here and the scar, the necrosis side, it went down, took out a portion of it.
I've heard other complications with nipple sparing as well. They just took mine completely. One of the reasons is because my cancer was pretty close to the nipple as well. So I'm going in for my second breast surgery. It's phase 2. I think it'll be the last one in August. And I am thinking about doing the 3D nipple tattoo.
I am too. I have the tissue expanders in right now. And July
Okay.
6th, I get my transfer to the implants. And then I have to wait 3 months after that to get to 3D nipple tattoos. They have 3D.
Okay.
I don't know what the difference is, but 4D sounds better.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I have heard from a few friends who have had it done, and they just said it is a game changer because having a mastectomy and reconstruction is traumatic enough. For me, I mourned my breasts big time. I loved my breasts, and I could not wrap my mind around the fact that I would not have the same ones but I did end up getting the deep flap autologous surgery in New Orleans. So my breasts are my own tissue and blood vessels and everything. So they do feel they feel great. They're different, of course, but when you don't have nipples like that, it is very difficult to look at yourself sometimes in the mirror. And I have friends who got the 3D and they just said it's just a game changer. Like it just changes everything.
Yeah.
Are there any tips that you have for people who've had the mastectomy and reconstruction to help with any kind of recovery?
Yes. Move. Simple exercise that I would do, as you seen me doing earlier. I would just clap like this, go like this, push up, push out, flap my first. I just kept it moving so all this didn't get tight and it kept me moving. I did what my body allowed me to do. I obviously couldn't do it as good when I first had it, but I kept moving. Lots of pillows and wedges. Those is what helped me get comfortable and lay in the bed without pain. The drain belts helped me a lot in the shower. I had the drain tank top so when I could walk around and hide them and put a shirt on top of it. Those things really helped me because the pulling of those drains drove me crazy. One time I caught it on a doorknob.
Oh
at a
my
hou-
gosh.
Yeah, I caught it. I was walking by and coming out the bathroom, and one of the drains got caught on a doorknob, and I thought it pulled it out. It hurt it so bad. So definitely protect those drains.
Okay. Yeah, I had 4 drains and they are really interesting to maneuver. But the pillows, I to this day sleep with my mastectomy pillow. I can't be without it. It's comforting. It feels good. I am about 7 months post-op right now. I have another super soft pillow that I hug to the side, but for the longest time, I couldn't go to the side. I couldn't sleep on my side, had to be on my back. I got sick and tired of that for sure. And I'm a stomach sleeper. So it was very difficult for me to get used to not sleeping on my stomach. And even now, I have to be really careful about sleeping on my stomach for a little while longer. But exercise, moving your arms, just moving your body, going on walks and things like that. Okay, so here's a good one. What is your experience with menopause and breast cancer weight?
Ugh, this is not a good one, Jamie. Before being put into a medically induced menopause and having breast cancer, I was able to maintain my weight with a slightly raised BMI, but I wasn't considered obese. I like to believe that it came from my inactivity during recovery of 5 surgeries over the last 5 years. Oh, last year and a half. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the 5-year cancer pill over the last year and a half, but I'm active again and it's still hard to get off. I gained 20 pounds and I know that at least 10 pounds of it was fluid because I've lost that, but the rest, it just won't budge. And I am convinced that it is hormonal, with menopause and the breast cancer treatment. I do believe that have everything to do with it.
Okay. Did breast cancer push you into menopause, or were you going through menopause at first, or how did that work for you?
No, actually, I had a robotic prophylactic hysterectomy and oophorectomy. I had my first fibroid, and I'm just so extreme. I just told my doctor, if you're going to go in and take out one ovary, take out everything because I'm not going to, keep coming back. So that put me into the medically induced menopause.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think that I really started going through menopause shortly before I found out I had breast cancer. I think I'd been experiencing some things, a few years prior leading up to, but nothing really crazy. And it wasn't actually until I would say about a month before, maybe 2 months before I found out I had breast cancer. I know this is going to be a little graphic. My husband and I were being intimate together. We were having sex and it hurt really, really bad. And I was so shocked and overwhelmed by the pain that I didn't even know how to process it because that was so far from the normal that I had experienced for all of our marriage. And so I remember telling him how badly it hurt. And I
Hmm.
thought, I wonder if that's part of menopause. So then all of a sudden breast cancer happens. And I think I remember asking my doctor, is that something that may have been going on? Is that something that's been happening now? Well, fast forward after I got my mastectomy and reconstruction, I went to a new gynecologist here in our town, and she was able to put me through a treatment that she said I, in fact, was in menopause, and she put me through a treatment that helped me. Because did you know that when you go through menopause, that your vagina shrinks? It shrinks. It shrinks in all different ways. And so I found out a lot about menopause, and she was able to get me through this treatment. And now everything seems to be okay. So I just think it's really important for women to understand that I know that breast cancer can throw you into that menopausal state as well. And as far as the weight gain, I just think that, gosh, there's so many things that come with breast cancer and the
Yeah.
treatments, and it's like, okay, what next? And you really don't want to ask that because there's going to be something that's next and you don't want
It's a,
it's,
yeah, it's a lifetime recovery.
it
It
is.
really is,
It
you
is.
know?
And I think once people wrap their minds around that, if they can, makes it a little bit more doable, but boy, I mean, I'm still running into things and it's just crazy. What is, in your opinion, the best safeguard against breast cancer?
The best safeguard against breast cancer. in my opinion, would be selfies or self breast exams. I call them
Mhm.
selfies. The fact that cancer cells divide every 180 days, and while you're waiting on your next routine mammogram, they can quadruple, and this will put you at a later stage and it will make treatment more complicated. Secondly, I would say genetic testing. It's important to know your risk for certain gene mutations that can put you at a higher risk. And not to just disregard mammograms because it's equally important because I've been told, well, I've read through my research that mammograms can find cancer up to 3 years before we can even feel it. So, all three of those together, I think, is the best safeguard.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I know that I had a mammogram less than a year before I was diagnosed. I had the mammogram. Clearly, they didn't see anything. And I was going in for my next one, but it was 3 weeks later. But I did tell them that I felt a lump. And so they moved it up by 3 weeks. And apparently, it had grown very quickly. It was very aggressive. And I was in stage 2. So clearly that year, that whole year, it had grown to 5 centimeters. As far as genetic testing, I had never even thought about doing genetic testing, but I did end up doing a comprehensive genetic test after I found out about breast cancer. And no one in my family that I knew of had breast cancer. But that
Right.
genetic testing is really important. I
It
think
is.
it's a great safeguard. Okay, your book that is gonna be launching October.
Mm-hmm. 20.
I would love it if you could read us one of your favorite excerpts from your book.
Well, none of them are my favorite because it's just a trigger for me. Just reading and reliving it. But I try to, be as clear and try to paint a vivid picture to the audience and they can know exactly what I went through, adding a little bit of humor to such a serious topic. But all the same, it's an easy and simple read. But I think I would like to start at waiting, the period where I was waiting on my results.
Okay.
So these days felt like the longest period of my life. I'd never been through such an ordeal before. To know that my life seemingly depended on the news that I was supposed to receive. I was unsure of what lay ahead of me, and so naturally I felt a myriad of emotions coursing through my veins, the most prominent of them being fear. I waited in fear, a fear that I had never known. This fear, coupled with the anxiety that I carried for 2 months, had me scouring the internet for answers and armory just in case. I still remember that night. I cried until my vision was blurred as I read similar testimonies suggesting it could very well be breast cancer. I felt hopeless and helpless. Lacking optimism, I prayed and fasted, hoping my results were negative like the self talk in my head. I set my ringer as loud as I could, as loud as it can go, so I wouldn't miss the fateful call. 6 days later, my phone rang with my doctor's name on the screen. I swallowed and answered with a nervous hello. I was paralyzed when she told me that I had stage 1A ductal carcinoma in situ, which means some of the cells that line the milk ducts of the breast have become cancer, but they have not spread into surrounding breast tissue. I love early birthday presents, but I certainly didn't want this one.
Powerful. Powerful. It's amazing what goes through our minds when we get that phone call and we
Yes.
hear that word, cancer. It is cancer.
Like
And
I described, I was paralyzed.
I know that this book for you has probably been very healing for you to be able to write down your most deepest, heartfelt thoughts and feelings about your journey. And I just am so happy that you wrote it and that you're going to be able to put it out there for so many people to read. And hopefully, I am confident that's going to help so many people when they find out that they have breast cancer, or even caregivers, so that they can see in the mind of the person who has the breast cancer. So thank you for reading that. And I am so excited to get your book and read it. And I'm going to put it in the show notes. Oh, are we not allowed to put what it's called yet because it's not launched?
It's called Heir to Breast Cancer.
Heir to Breast Cancer. So we're going to put
Yes.
that in the show notes. And then when it is finally launched, I will go ahead and insert that once it's launched so that people have a link to go and purchase it.
Right.
How does that sound?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Well, friend, I am so thrilled and honored that you have joined us and told us your story and such great advice. And do you have anything to add before we wrap up?
No, I just look forward to putting this all behind me and helping as many women as I can. And I wanted to add something to what you said,
Okay.
who the book was for. My focus now have became reaching the younger women. Women are getting breast cancer at such a younger age. I would like to speak to women in colleges and universities, those age on up to age 40. That's been my focus. I would like to speak in some of these colleges, and I have reached out to some of these sororities, sisters who want to help me with this and to reach those target audiences.
Fantastic. What a brilliant idea. I think
Yeah.
that is absolutely wonderful because there are so many younger women who are getting breast cancer. And it's almost like when we find out what we have, we don't even know what's up. And so, as many resources as possible that we can put out there, I'm sure will be so helpful. So, thank you for doing that.
Excellent.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Zainab. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And to my audience, thank you for joining us. And I will see you next time on the next episode of Test Those Breasts.
Bye.